Hey everybody, today I'm going to explore Buttermilk Falls natural area and talk about the special connection this area has with Mr. Rogers. So let's go. Buttermilk Falls is located in the vicinity of New Florence in Seward, Pennsylvania. So I'm here on December 18th on a pretty chilly day, about 38 degrees, all by myself, okay? One of these morning trips that you can get to these places and have them all to yourself. And so let's take a walk around this area and talk about its connection with Mr. Rogers, as I've said. So that goes back to the fact that Mr. Rogers' grandfather owned a property in this vicinity. I guess it was a kind of a summer retreat, about a 50-acre property, I believe. And Mr. Rogers would visit this place in, the summers or whatever. All right, so, and it happens to harbor a nice little waterfall that's pretty impressive for this part of Pennsylvania. There aren't that many tall waterfalls, so this is one of the higher ones in western Pennsylvania. I grew up about 15 miles away from here, but surprisingly, I never came here until once about 10 years ago. And so since I was here, here's a little bit about some signage, connection to Mr. Rogers, and I should point out, Mr. Rogers' grandfather's name was Mr. McFeely. That should ring a bell for anybody that's ever watched Mr. Rogers, as the mailman, right? Mr. McFeely. All right, so I came here about 10 years ago, and since I was here, they made significant improvements to this trail and created like a boardwalk area, a boardwalk or wooden step area to get down and around the falls. So let's just walk our way through here and see what there is to see. It's a pretty small park. Here's some nice signage. This is a little bit about someone named Jacob Schweitzer, who painted scenes from this particular area. I'm also not far from Johnstown, PA, which I visited last year. Here's a depiction of Buttermilk Falls that Schweitzer created at one point, and other areas around Johnstown, and the river nearby is called the Conemaugh River. Turns out he was born near the hometown where I went to high school, Homer City, PA. All right, so there's just a little bit of history about this artist named Jacob Schweitzer. And I guess it goes back to the, mid-1800s. Well, he lived to be 100 years old. 1848 to 1948. So, wow. Okay. Pretty cool. All right, so let's take a walk around here and see what there is to see. This is all paved at this point. There's a couple little, looks like, just little sweet nothings along the way. This is, I think they did this in part to make this much more accessible. As you can see, this is a wide paved path. And I believe it'll circle around down to the falls, which are just below us here. I can hear it running. And this creek is a tributary, I think it's called Hines Run, tributary of the Conemaugh River, which is down in the valley below. So here's our path to the falls. So I've dropped down just a little bit farther. So we're getting closer to the stream down there. There's a little gorge below us. You see some rock outcroppings. We're in sandstone, 350-year-old, million-year-old sandstones in this region. There are eastern hemlocks lining the gorge here. I saw a quite nice population of rhododendrons up above. Maybe we'll see more of. But here we're approaching a few observation platforms here. There's one right over here we'll take a look at. Yeah, this is just a little platform. It allows us to overlook the falls. So there's Buttermilk Falls. I can see the gorge walls here lined by hydrangea. Will be flowering in the summer. And that is about, I forget how tall that's supposed to be. 35 feet or something in that order. And like I said, that's one of the taller waterfalls in western Pennsylvania. There's a great big wasp nest hanging above it. Looks like of a bald-faced hornet. And then the gorge heads downstream. I do see that although there are native eastern hemlocks, some of these evergreens you're seeing are eastern hemlocks, there are spruces through here as well. Those spruces are probably not native here. They've been planted at some point. So right across from us are spruces, and I see a few up in this direction as well. Those would have been planted here. All right, so let's curl around and walk down, and I think we can get actually behind the falls. So let's go see that. Here's the start of the stairs. Let's go do this. I think these stairs and this walkway, these were added maybe 5 years ago, I think. Some sitting areas here. Now, from what I understand it, there was a cottage here as well. I think above us there's a foundation that was a cottage. And some of these, I'm not quite sure, but this little spot, I know there was what they called a swimming pool area here. And it was upstream of the falls, and just an area where they had channeled the water into a pool. I think this looks like foundations of the cottage here, perhaps. Oh, it looks like it's up here. Okay, yeah. This little concreted stone dam, this would have formed the swimming pool area. And you know, this was a family estate, essentially, farm. And you could imagine a little kid, Mr. Rogers, swimming in this thing when he was little, when he was only Master Rogers. That's the little swimming pool area, creating its own little waterfall. Let's go see the real thing down here. That means these foundations here might have been the cottage, I'm not sure. But this was in private hands for a long time. I think it was open to the public in around 1990. Okay, here we go. So 2017 is when they really improved the access to this particular spot. Pretty awesome bridge across a small stream. Let's head down. Some mountain laurels along the way here, right there. There's a neat little look at the falls. So as I see it, there is a harder layer of sandstone that resisted erosion, and down below I can see there's much more shale-like layers that were more erodible, okay, that broke away. But that's why that fall persisted, because there was a tougher layer of sandstone that basically refused to erode. Another view. They used to, of course, call this the Niagara Falls of Pennsylvania. All right, I'm going to brave this thing. It looks pretty wet under there, but I'm going to give it a shot. So here we go. Just like Niagara Falls, this is my trip behind the falls. Oh! All right. Wow, it's in one way very like energizing, but soothing at the same time. It sounds like the hardest rain you could ever imagine. Just hitting this rock right here. So hopefully this sandstone above me holds. Very cool. A trip behind Buttermilk Falls in western PA. Breezy back here as well. It's interesting how this falling water generates a wind. We have liverworts clinging to these wet cliff walls. That's pretty cool. Let's try you some spots here. Let me do this. There we go. A little clearer maybe. All right, I'm going to proceed out of here and back on top and hit another little trail called the McFeely Trail. One thing I noticed on these hemlocks, unfortunately, is quite a bit of thinning. And that's a sign to me that they're being attacked by something. And that something is hemlock woolly adelgid. So if you look at the underside of this hemlock, all those little white puffs you see lining the twigs here, those are hemlock woolly adelgids. That's an invasive insect from Asia that is doing a number on eastern hemlocks in the eastern half of the United States. In some areas they've devastated hemlocks, like in North Carolina. Here in Pennsylvania it's been spotty. They do get knocked back by cold winters. So if we get a cold winter, that'll really knock these things back. Here's some more. You can see even from the upper side, that really knocks them back, lets the trees recover a little bit, and they can hang on in these more northern habitats. But as the climate continues to warm, it's less likely they'll get knocked back sufficiently over winter to hold them back. So they're likely to just increasingly be a problem for eastern hemlocks. And I see a number of them around here with quite a bit of thinning. So that's too bad for them. But that's the nature of plant-insect interactions and invasive species these days, linked with climate change. Okay, so let's keep going. We're gonna go back up near the parking area and take the McFeely Trail, I think, which is just a little wooded loop, just to see what we see there. And then we'll conclude the episode. So I'll join you up on top. Next, I'm gonna take the McFeely Trail, little loop up above the falls, and see what we see up here. So let's head down the trail. This looks like it just goes through a patch of, looks like mostly second growth woods here. And I'm just gonna walk it, a lot of beeches. My last episode, I talked about this pattern where beeches, young beeches especially, don't lose their leaves in the fall. They hang on to them through the winter until spring, called marcescence. See a lot of that here. Lots of oaks, white oaks, and red oaks in the canopy, tulip trees, black cherries, sassafras, things of that nature. Very typical forest in this area. Black cherry right here. So I'll just walk around here and probably pause now and then if I find some highlights. So join you shortly. Something interesting behind me here. And so there's a tree that illustrates some of the bark variation you can see within a species. And so first of all, for those who've ever watched any of my shows, my episodes, we've looked at a lot of trees that have this appearance. All right, see those large bark flakes. On first glance, you might look at that and say, oh yeah, that's a shagbark hickory. Well, guess what? It's not. This is a red maple. And it just shows these crazy bark anomalies. And so, you know, that just illustrates that although normally red maple has a bark that looks a lot more like this one in front of us here, there can be a lot of variation in bark structure. Okay, that's a red maple as well. So within species there can be tremendous variation in bark, especially within certain species. Sugar maples, red maples, as I've shown you, white oaks have highly variable barks. Some trees, however, are much less variable. Like here's a black cherry. Whenever you see a tree with flaky, potato chip-like bark like that, you're almost certain it's going to be a black cherry. All right? So let's keep going to see what else we see. As I walk this McFeely trail, I've not encountered any exceptionally large and old trees. There are some nice sized trees. These tulip trees here are 2.5 feet in diameter or so. Okay, nice tall trees. But as I really look around, this has all the signs of a forest that was probably completely cut over about 100 years ago. So all the trees I'm seeing, I believe, would be under 100 years old. There could be some exceptions. Maybe 150 for some of the older, say, white oaks, red oaks, but this is mostly what you'd call second growth forest. And it's, you know, as long as it stays under protection, these trees will continue to grow, and some will die and fall, as you see. That's natural. But that's what I'm seeing here. Again, beeches, tulip trees, red oaks, black cherries, maples, things like that. Pretty standard. What I'm not seeing is interesting. You know, I spent a lot of time in southwestern Ohio. What I'm not seeing are things like bur oaks and blue ashes and species of that nature that like more limestone soils, which we don't have here. These are more acidic sandstone-based soils. And so those things just aren't found here. But there is a great deal of overlap. Everything I'm seeing at the moment, I can also find out there. But there are certain things not here that I can find out there. So here's probably one of the bigger red oaks I've encountered along the way. I'm working my way back to the parking area. Pretty hefty northern red oak trail marker right here. It's about a 3-foot diameter tree. Okay, it has a little bit of a lean to it there, but it looks quite healthy. And there's a hefty beech tree over here. Now that's a pretty old tree. Beeches grow fairly slowly, so this is a pretty hefty beech, and nice and stout. So that's probably a pretty old tree there. And of course, you can always recognize beech trees because there are initials carved in it. Okay, let me try to get out of here before I fall. Then we have chunks of sandstone. This is the sandstone that was uplifted and eroded many millions of years ago. These mountains are much older than the mountains, say, out west. And so I'm in an area, ridges. I'm near Laurel Ridge, actually. which I hiked last January. I hiked up on top of Laurel Ridge. And that reaches heights of around 3,000 feet, 2,900 feet in this area. I don't know what I'm at right here. I'm at probably 2,000 maybe, where I am right now. Maybe not even that high. So, okay, I'm working my way back to the parking area, and I'll catch up with you in a second. Before I conclude, I just wanted to show you, this is a shot up above the falls. Just down to where I'm pointing is the swimming pool area, I said, where Mr. Rogers used to swim around. And so just upstream of that is just this nice hollow with, it's lined by rhododendrons, a really nice population of rhododendrons in here, and some more hemlocks and things. And so, and above there is another small waterfall. It's not nearly as large as Buttermilk. I can't get close to it because up here it's private property. But I think with that, I'll conclude this pretty short episode of my visit to Buttermilk Falls near New Florence, PA. So until next time, I'll see you. This is The Naturalist. Bye-bye.